Do you know what's more dangerous than a Messi at full speed? A Messi who seems invisible. For 80 minutes he walks, barely touches the ball, and the cameras start questioning him. But when the 70th minute arrives, something changes. Suddenly, each of his passes opens up defenses, each movement displaces entire lines, and when you least expect it, the scoreboard breaks. It's not luck. It's calculation. December in the MLS means playoffs, and Messi has spent 2 seasons proving he knows exactly when to turn on and when to pretend he's turned off. Why are some decisive matches decided in the blink of an eye? Because someone chose the exact moment to make it happen. The MLS Cup final on December 6th pitted Inter Miami against Vancouver Whitecaps at Chase Stadium, and for over an hour the match seemed balanced, even nervous. Messi touched the ball sparingly, walked through the center, and commentators started talking about accumulated fatigue. But in the 71st minute came the play nobody anticipated. High recovery in midfield, a filtered pass from Messi between the lines, and Rodrigo De Paul scored the 2-1 that sealed the title. 2 minutes later, in added time, Messi assisted again and closed the final 3-1. Coincidence? If you look at the numbers from that postseason, you discover that more than half of his goal contributions came in the second half of matches, many in the final 20 minutes. And here's the uncomfortable question. If he can do it in the 70th minute, why didn't he do it in the 30th? In this video you're going to discover 3 things. First, you'll understand why some matches seem calm until it's too late. Second, you'll see the pattern of decisions he repeats in key minutes, because more than half of his playoff contributions arrive after the 60th minute. And at the end, the video leaves you with a simple rule to recognize playoff mode before it happens. Stay until the end of the video and you'll understand the why of everything. The 2025 regular season was historic for Messi in the MLS. 29 goals and 19 assists in 31 games. Stratospheric numbers that earned him the league's Golden Boot and positioned him as the favorite to repeat the Most Valuable Player award. But when the playoffs started in November, something changed in his playing style. The first 45 minutes of each elimination round seemed lower intensity. Short touches, static positions, long walks without the ball. Rival stands started to relax. Opposing coaches adjusted their lines thinking the danger was controlled. And then came the second half. Against Nashville in the first playoff round, Messi scored 2 goals in the first leg that ended 3-1. Both came before halftime, but in the return match Miami fell 2-1 away from home, forcing a decisive third match. That's when the pattern activated. During the first 30 minutes, Messi barely participated in dangerous plays. Nashville started believing they could pull off the upset. But in the second half, with the score still 0-0, Messi opened the scoring and completed his brace before the 60th minute, unleashing a 4-0 rout that left Nashville without answers. The obvious question is, why wait? Why not decide the match from the start? The next elimination round was against FC Cincinnati in the Eastern Conference semifinals, and the script repeated itself. Messi scored with a header in the 18th minute after a quick counterattack initiated by Jordi Alba, but after the goal the pace dropped dramatically. Cincinnati tried to press high, but Miami circulated the ball without urgency, allowing rivals to recover positions. The first 45 minutes ended with a minimal advantage. When the second half started, Messi assisted Matteo Silvetti and then delivered 2 more goal passes for Tadeo Allende, completing a hat-trick of assists that destroyed any hope of a comeback. The final score was 4-0, but the feeling was clear. Miami had played 2 different matches in 90 minutes, and Messi had been the switch between both. In total, Messi finished those playoffs with 6 goals and 9 assists, establishing a record of 15 goal contributions in a single MLS postseason. But what stands out isn't just the quantity, but the temporal distribution. A large portion of those decisive plays occurred in the second half of matches, especially after the 60th minute. While other players maintain a constant pace during 90 minutes, Messi seems to ration his energy, choosing specific windows to intervene. Is it fatigue? Is it strategy? Or is it something deeper related to how he reads the opponent's wear and tear? Every time Messi walks in midfield during the first 30 minutes, there are fans who start to doubt. Social media fills with comments about his age, his lack of intensity, his supposed disconnection from the match's rhythm. Television analysts mention he touches barely 20 or 25 balls in the first half, a low figure for someone who should be the axis of the attack. But when the 65th minute arrives, those same commentators change their tune. Suddenly, each of his touches generates danger, each pass seems calculated to the millimeter, and the rival defenses that looked solid start making inexplicable errors. What happened in those 15 minutes that transformed the match? Because it wasn't coincidence that everything changed just when you least expected it. The easy version says Messi simply gets less tired by walking, and that allows him to have fresh energy for the final minutes. It's a comfortable explanation you hear in any sports bar. Messi is already 38 years old, he needs to manage himself, that's why he walks so much. It sounds logical, and many repeat it without questioning. But that reading ignores a fundamental detail. Messi doesn't just walk, he observes. During those first 60 minutes when he seems absent, he's measuring distances between center-backs, counting how many seconds it takes fullbacks to recover position after attacking, detecting which rival midfielder lowers intensity first. It's not passive rest, it's active information gathering. The reality is much more uncomfortable. Messi chooses when to attack because he knows most teams can't maintain defensive concentration for a complete 90 minutes. Rival players start the match with high energy, pressing every pass, closing every space, running every divided ball. But around the 60th minute, mental fatigue starts weighing more than physical. Lines become disorganized by half a meter, marking relaxes for a second, and those small errors are sufficient for someone who spent an hour memorizing every defensive pattern. While the opponent spent energy chasing shadows in the first half, Messi saved his for the moment when shadows become real spaces. Against Cincinnati, that pattern was evident. After his early goal in the 18th minute, Messi let the team control the ball without forcing situations. Cincinnati pressed with intensity during the entire first half, recovering several times in the rival field, but without managing to convert that pressure into clear chances. When halftime arrived, Cincinnati's players had collectively run more than 70 kilometers, while Messi had barely surpassed 5. In the second half, with heavy legs and concentration at its limit, Cincinnati tried to maintain the same intensity. That's when Messi destroyed their structure with 3 assists in 30 minutes, taking advantage of spaces that didn't exist in the first half because now the coverage arrived a second late. And the strong part is that this is just beginning. This pattern isn't exclusive to the 2025 playoffs. If you review the international finals Messi played with Argentina, you find the same script. In the 2021 Copa America final against Brazil, the decisive goal came in the 62nd minute after a locked match. In the 2022 World Cup final against France, his 2 goals came in the 23rd minute and the 108th minute. But the key play that triggered the penalty shootout victory was his pass to the post in added time when everyone expected him to finish alone. There's always a hinge moment when Messi goes from spectator to protagonist, and that moment is almost never when the opponent expects it. The difference in the MLS is that the average physical level of defenders is inferior to Europe or South America, which makes that window of opportunity open faster and more predictably. In the MLS Cup final against Vancouver, the pattern reached its most refined version. During the first 60 minutes, the match was balanced. Miami opened the scoring with an own goal in the 8th minute, but Vancouver equalized in the 60th thanks to a shot from Ali Ahmed that surprised goalkeeper Rocco Rios Novo. The Chase Stadium stands started getting nervous. Messi had touched the ball fewer than 30 times in that hour of play, and the cameras showed his expressionless face, without signs of urgency. But in the 71st minute, after a midfield recovery that he himself forced with unexpected pressing, he filtered a pass between lines to Rodrigo De Paul, who finished for the definitive 2-1. It was the championship play, and it arrived exactly when Vancouver was starting to believe in the comeback. What makes that moment even more revealing is that Messi had been walking in that area of the field during the entire match, allowing Vancouver to get used to seeing him far from the rival area. Vancouver's centre-backs relaxed, thinking the danger was contained. And just then, when their guard dropped, Messi pressed the rival ball carrier, recovered, and in 2 touches the match was settled. It wasn't magic. It was the result of 70 minutes of tactical patience waiting for the rival to commit the error Messi had already anticipated. If you look at the images of that play, you see how Messi accelerates barely 3 meters to intercept the ball, but those 3 meters were sufficient because Vancouver's midfielder no longer had fresh reflexes to protect the ball. During the first half, that same player had resisted more intense pressure without problems. But in the 71st minute, with more than 10 kilometers in his legs and his head thinking about overtime, his body didn't respond in time. Messi didn't run more. He ran at the exact moment when running became devastating. And there's the uncomfortable secret. It's not about being physically better for 90 minutes, but about identifying the exact minute when the rival can no longer sustain you. It's like a poker player who spends hours observing his opponent's micro-expressions before making the decisive bet. Messi invests 60 minutes studying patterns, measuring reaction times, detecting which defender starts taking shorter steps or which midfielder no longer closes with the same speed. When he confirms the window is open, he attacks with surgical precision. And by then, the rival no longer has a way to respond because their tank is empty. In the 2025 playoffs, that method led Inter Miami to their first MLS Cup title with an impeccable balance in the final rounds. But it also left an uncomfortable question for the rest of the league. How do you defend someone who doesn't play at the match's pace, but at the pace he himself decides to impose? Rival coaches tried different strategies: high pressure for 90 minutes, individual marking on Messi from the start, ultra-low defensive lines to avoid spaces. None worked consistently, because all assumed Messi would respond to the stimulus. But he didn't respond, he waited. And when the stimulus disappeared due to rival fatigue, then he attacked. There's a visual detail that repeats in almost all those key matches. Around the 60th minute, cameras focus on Messi and his body language changes. He stops walking with his hands on his hips and starts asking for the ball with short, direct gestures. His teammates notice immediately, because they know that signal means he's identified the crack in the rival defense. From there, every pass he receives has intention. There are no decorative touches or lateral circulation without purpose. Everything goes directly to exploit the where he just confirmed. It's a subtle change that fans in the stadium barely perceive, but that players on the field feel like a temperature change. If you start counting how many times in his career Messi has decided important matches after the 70th minute, the list becomes uncomfortable for any defender. But what's fascinating isn't the numbers, but the consistency of the method. It doesn't matter if it's a World Cup final, a Clásico against Real Madrid, or an MLS playoff semifinal. The pattern repeats: prolonged observation, minimal intervention in the first hour, and tactical explosion when the rival lowers their guard. Some call it genius. Others call it cold calculation. But nobody can deny it works with a regularity that no longer seems like coincidence. Now, does this playoff mode have a cost? Because playing this way implies accepting that for 60 minutes your team can be at a disadvantage, that the rival can gain confidence, and that an unfortunate play could ruin the entire plan. Against Nashville, Inter Miami lost the second match 2-1 playing away from home, and during long stretches of that encounter Messi seemed disconnected. Was it a calculated risk knowing there would be a third home match? Or was it simply a day when the method didn't work? The answer is probably at some midpoint, but the truth is Miami had to force a third match because Messi couldn't or wouldn't activate at the necessary moment during the away leg in Nashville. And then you arrive at the most difficult question. What happens when you play against a team that also knows how to ration their energy? Because if the secret is waiting for rival wear, what happens if the rival also decides to wait? In theory, you'd have a 90-minute match where both teams walk waiting for the other to tire first, which would be an unbearable football spectacle. But in practice, that almost never happens in the MLS because most teams don't have a player with Messi's technical quality who can resolve the match with a single play after an hour of apparent inactivity. So rivals are forced to try to win the match from minute 1, and in doing so, they fall exactly into the trap Messi wants. But there's a silent factor that explains the impossible, one that not even the most detailed analysts mention when they talk about this pattern: Messi's invisible physical preparation between matches. Because to be able to execute this method, you need to arrive at the 60th minute with sufficient energy to accelerate for 30 consecutive minutes, and that doesn't happen by magic. It requires specific regenerative work, training load control, and an exact reading of when your body can give that final push without breaking. And that's where the story gets really interesting, because what seems like brilliant improvisation on the field is actually the result of decisions made days before in the planning room. The invisible preparation that allows exploiting the 70th minute begins days before the match, in sessions that don't appear in official training. While the rest of the team completes high-intensity work on Tuesday and Wednesday before a playoff match, Messi performs low-load muscle activations, joint mobility work, and 30-minute sessions focused on short accelerations of 3 to 5 meters. He doesn't run long distances. He doesn't do 20-meter sprints. He only practices the exact gesture he'll need in the 70th minute, starting from 0 to maximum intensity for 3 seconds, stopping and starting again. That specificity isn't coincidence. It's the physical answer to a tactical question. How much explosive energy do you need to reserve to destroy a tired defense in a 10-minute window? The physical cost of that method is invisible to cameras but real for the body. Every time Messi walks for 60 minutes and then accelerates in the 70th, His muscular system goes from an almost resting state to maximum demand in seconds. That contrast generates more stress on tendons and joints than running constantly throughout the entire match. Because there's no progressive warm-up, there's immediate explosion. To sustain it without getting injured, he needs preventive work that other players his age can't or won't do. And there's the hidden price. While his teammates rest the day after the match, Messi is in the physiotherapy room for 2 hours working on active recovery of specific areas that supported that late explosive load. If this surprises you, the next part will blow your mind. The easy version says Messi plays this way because his body no longer allows him to maintain high intensity for a complete 90 minutes, and that this playoff mode is simply an adaptation to the inevitable aging of a footballer over 38 years old. It's a comfortable narrative that fits what we expect from any athlete at that stage. Fewer minutes, fewer sprints, more rest. The media constantly repeats it when analyzing his performance, highlighting that he walks more than 50% of the time he's on the field. Even some fans defend him, saying that, at his age, doing what he does is enough. But that explanation assumes the pattern is defensive, a concession to physical limitations. The reality is that Messi chose to play this way long before his body forced him to. If you review his last seasons at Barcelona, you find matches where at 28 or 29 years old he was already applying this method. Tactical disappearance in the first half, explosion in the second. The difference is that then he had margin to do both things, and now he can only do one. But the choice of which to do is conscious and calculated. He's not managing decline, he's maximizing advantage. Because it turns out that in modern football, where all teams collectively run more than 100 kilometers per match and intensities are extremely high from minute 1, appearing fresh in the 70th minute is more valuable than having run 10 kilometers in the first 60. The opponent already spent their energy chasing pressing, coverage and transitions. Messi saved his for when that rival energy no longer exists. And that's where the method becomes uncomfortable for rival coaches, because you can't plan against someone who doesn't follow the match's rhythm. All modern tactical systems assume players will respond to stimuli. If you press high, the rival plays long. If you close the center, the rival opens through the wings. If you mark the forward, the midfielder appears. But Messi doesn't respond. He observes. For 60 minutes, he lets his team function without him as the axis, allowing the rival to feel comfortable with their defensive plan. And when that comfort reaches its maximum point, when the center-backs have mentally confirmed that Messi isn't sharp today, then he appears with a pass that breaks 3 lines or a recovery in an unexpected zone that triggers the decisive goal. It's not late magic. It's strategic patience waiting for the exact moment when the rival lowers their guard. There's a detail few notice in broadcasts. Around the 55th minute, cameras usually capture Messi briefly talking with the nearest midfielder, generally Sergio Busquets or someone from the double pivot. The conversation lasts 5 seconds. There are no dramatic gestures or long instructions. But from that moment, passes toward Messi change zones. They stop looking for him between lines and start reaching him in 3/4 of the field with more space. That minimal adjustment is the signal that Messi has already identified the window of opportunity and is positioning the pieces to exploit it in the next 15 minutes. It's invisible communication that reconfigures the attack without the rival detecting it until it's too late. If you feel this story leaves something out, wait until the end. Now, what happens with the sponsors and commercial expectations surrounding each Messi match in the MLS? Because one thing is designing a perfect tactical method, and quite another is applying it when there are stadiums full of fans who paid tickets specifically to see him shine from the first minute. The pressure of being the league's main attraction generates invisible tension. Every time Messi walks for half an hour without touching the ball, there are thousands of people in the stands and millions watching from home who start getting frustrated. Some even leave the stadium thinking, today isn't his day. And when the goal arrives in the 75th minute, those same people regret having left early. But the risk of disappointing in the short term to impact in the long term is part of the calculation Messi makes every time he enters the field. During the 2025 playoffs, that risk was more present than ever. Inter Miami played 4 elimination matches before reaching the final, and in at least 2 of them the stands started whistling in the first half due to the team's lack of intensity. They weren't direct whistles at Messi, but the frustration was evident. The public expected a spectacle for minute 1, and what they got was a locked match where the Argentine star seemed absent. But when the final scores showed blowouts of 3-0 and 4-0, with Messi accumulating goals and assists in 20-minute streaks, that initial frustration transformed into collective ecstasy. There's the genius of the method. It converts early disappointment into an emotional roller coaster that makes the outcome even more memorable. The problem is that method isn't replicable for the rest of the league's players. Because to be able to play this way, you need three conditions that very few footballers have. First, technical quality so superior that you can resolve matches with 3 or 4 touches in 10 minutes. Second, a team willing to function without you as the axis for 60 minutes, knowing that can imply being at a disadvantage on the scoreboard. And third, tactical reading so precise that you never make a mistake choosing the moment to activate. If you fail in any of those three conditions, the method collapses and you end up simply being a player who walks a lot and doesn't contribute. Messi has all three. Most of the rest of the MLS has none. And that generates an interesting paradox. The more effective the method is, the fewer teams can copy it, which means Messi will continue having an advantage over rivals who will try to contain him with strategies designed for players who do respond to the match's rhythm. It's as if he's playing a slightly different sport within the same field, with his own rules that only he completely understands. Rival coaches can study him for hours, analyze each of his movements in previous matches, and still reach the 70th minute without having found a way to neutralize him because the pattern they studied on video doesn't activate until it's too late to adjust. So that would be it, right? Well, no. Because there's a factor that transforms this method from simple individual strategy into something much more complex. The psychological effect it generates on the rival throughout an elimination round or championship. When a team faces Inter Miami for the first time in playoffs and experiences that pattern, the defeat hurts but can be justified as bad luck or an inspired day for Messi. But when other teams see those results and study the matches, they start entering the field with anticipated fear. Not of the Messi from minute 1, but of the Messi from minute 70 they know will arrive. And that fear makes them commit the fatal error, playing defensively from the start hoping to survive until the end, which is exactly what Messi needs to execute his method with maximum effectiveness. That's where playoff mode stops being just tactics and becomes a psychological weapon. Because it doesn't matter how much you've studied the pattern, when you're at the 65th minute with heavy legs and see Messi start asking for the ball more frequently, your brain activates an alarm that says, "Here it comes." And that alarm generates muscle tension, accelerates your pulse, and makes your decisions 10% slower. That 10% is sufficient for a pass you would have intercepted in the 30th minute to now slip between your legs. It's not that Messi plays better in the 70th minute, it's that you play worse, and he knows it. The MLS Cup final demonstrated that effect with brutal clarity. Vancouver arrived at that match knowing exactly what Messi would do: walk, observe, wait. Their coach designed a plan to maintain compact lines throughout the encounter, avoiding spaces even if that meant giving up attacking. For 60 minutes the plan worked. The score was tied, the defensive lines held, and Messi had touched the ball fewer than 30 times without generating real danger. But in the 71st minute, a Vancouver midfielder who had run more than 11 kilometers lost concentration for 2 seconds when receiving a pass in the balance zone. Messi, who had spent an hour waiting for exactly that error, pressed those 3 meters separating victory from defeat, recovered, and with 2 touches the match was settled. That Vancouver midfielder didn't commit a technical error. He committed a mental saturation error. His body could no longer process information at the necessary speed because he had been on maximum alert for 70 minutes waiting for Messi to do something. And when he finally did, the reaction arrived half a second late. Half a second that, in elite football, is the difference between intercepting a ball and giving it away. Messi wasn't faster, he was more patient. And patience, when combined with absolute technical quality, is devastating. But the truth is that the secret to recognizing Messi's playoff mode before it destroys your team isn't in counting how many minutes he's been walking or how many times he's touched the ball. It's in observing 3 invisible signals that always appear in the same sequence and that few notice until it's too late. First signal. Around the 50th minute, Messi starts positioning himself 5 meters more advanced than usual, leaving his comfort zone in midfield to subtly approach the 3/4 line. It's not a dramatic movement. It's a 2 or 3 meter adjustment that repositions his range of action. Second signal. Between the 55th and 60th minute, he increases the frequency of verbal communication with his teammates, asking for faster orientation changes and more vertical passes. The conversations are brief but constant. Third signal. In the 65th minute, his body language changes completely. He stops walking with his hands on his hips and starts making short, explosive, unmarking movements, asking for the ball with direct gestures instead of waiting for it to arrive. When those 3 signals appear in sequence, It means Messi has already confirmed the rival reached their breaking point and that the next 10 to 15 minutes will be the execution window. It's like watching a predator change posture just before attacking. The prey still doesn't know it's in danger, but the result is already decided. Coaches who manage to recognize those signals have a 3 to 5 minute window to adjust. Bring in a fresh substitution in midfield, drop the lines another 5 meters, or even change the scheme to double mark Messi. But most don't detect them because they're focused on the scoreboard, on possession statistics, on kilometers covered. And when they finally react, Messi has already scored or assisted and the match is over. During that entire 2025 postseason, only one team managed to partially neutralize that pattern, and it was in the second match against Nashville when they won 2-1 away from home. What did they do differently? In the 58th minute, with the score still 0-0, Nashville's coach made 2 simultaneous substitutions, bringing fresh midfielders specifically to double mark Messi. He didn't wait until the 70th minute. He anticipated the activation window and closed the space before Messi could exploit it. It worked for 30 minutes, but it had a cost. Nashville exhausted their substitutions early and couldn't sustain that intensity in the decisive third match, where Messi destroyed their lines with 4 goals and assists. There's the final trap of the method. Even when you recognize it and adjust, the cost of neutralizing it is so high that you end up paying for it in the next encounter. Messi's playoff mode isn't a phase he activates when important matches arrive. It's a mentality he built over 2 decades, understanding that football isn't about running more or playing better for a complete 90 minutes, but about identifying the exact moment when your technical superiority can become decisive advantage. And that moment is almost never when the rival expects it. It's when the rival lowers their guard, believing they've already neutralized you, when mental fatigue starts weighing more than physical, when a 2-second concentration error transforms into irreversible defeat. That's where Messi lives, in that microscopic window between rival fatigue and the match's final decision. And he's spent 20 years perfecting the art of finding it. If next time you watch an Inter-Miami playoff match and Messi seems invisible for 60 minutes, don't turn off the television or leave the stadium. Observe those 3 signals. Observe the minute when he changes his position, the frequency of his conversations, the moment when his body goes from rest to alert. When all 3 appear in sequence, prepare to see how 90 minutes of apparent indifference transform into 10 minutes of calculated devastation. Because playoff mode isn't magic. It's cold calculation executed with surgical precision by someone who decided long ago that he doesn't need to shine the entire match to win the championship. He only needs to shine at the exact moment when the rival can no longer respond. And when the season ends, there will still be debates about whether this method is genius or adaptation to aging. But while those debates occur, Messi will continue lifting titles applying the same formula. Invisible patience, constant observation, and lethal execution in the 10-minute window he himself chooses. That's not luck. It's absolute mastery of a game that most still believe is about running 90 minutes without stopping. And there's the last uncomfortable truth. While everyone keeps running, Messi keeps walking toward another contract with victory that he signs just when you decide he's no longer dangerous.